This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject. Brought to you by supporters of Christ.
Okay, as per requested. As per requested, right, we're going to get instruction on the Codex, right, as per requested. So we're working through the Patreon. I want y'all to understand that we're working through the Patreon. So I really appreciate the support on the Patreon. Y'all have no idea. We wouldn't even be at this level without the Patreon, family, right? We wouldn't even be at this level. We wouldn't be able to teach at this level. We wouldn't be able to produce at this level. We wouldn't be able to serve at this level. So understand, you guys are the backbone of the mission. You guys are the backbone of the ministry. You know what I'm saying? Like, so melanin versus diabetes might have died a long time ago, right? So I really take it serious, the instruction, the requests, and making sure we build around what it is that folks in the Patreon are noticing or requesting, right? So I want to stick with the prayer of the mind and use that as a blueprint to build out so that people get an idea of what we've done with this and then what you can do at home and how we can continue to build and what it's going to look like going forward, right? What it's going to look like going forward, because that's important, right? That's important. So I know people not going to be in sync with this. They probably going to have to watch this on a replay because we were supposed to go live last night and then scrambling to reschedule it. Instead of putting it for this morning, I think it was set for the night. So I think the algorithm is all, so people will probably not going to even find this live until it's not live. It's all good though. People will have the replay, watch it back, get the idea of what we got going on, right? But yeah, so all what we have been studying, we've been able to do with the Codex, right? So remember, we spend a lot of time studying biosemiotics, right? Like maybe the last 10 years, that's been a constant theme of ours. Being able to go back to what the ancients did, right? Being able to go back to what the ancients did in terms of encoding information in stories and then embedding symbols in the stories to further elucidate, and so embedding information in stories, embedding information in symbols, embedding those symbols in the stories, right? So that you get a wealth of knowledge and information and, be able to present that for generations, even if people lose the information per se in transmission, the symbols will be there, the science will be there, and all you have to do is just study the information and unpack the science. So we want to be able to go through and maybe just use this prayer of the mind as a blueprint so you can see how we kind of did that with some of the stuff, right? So that way we get maximum efficiency in terms of time as people are, right? Should have just finished doing their morning ritual, their morning prayer, right? 6 a.m. right? What we want people to start doing is incorporating a passage. Now, in the Codex, the prayer of the mind is only 2 pages. 2 pages of reading. And that's all I'm asking to go along with your your daily prayer, your daily exercise, right? Minimum 2-3 pages of reading. Like, this is right to make this easy, right? Just to make this easy, 2-3 pages of focused reading. 2-3 pages of focused reading 3 to 5 times a day. I'm telling you, this is going to build up. This is going to add serious wealth to your life. This is going to add serious value. It sounds like it's a little bit. 2 to 3 pages, that's nothing. Anybody can 2-3 pages of reading. That's come on. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reading you should be doing, but I'm saying just as a minimum to study the Codex and begin to really get this information on a deeper level. Right? So let's walk this through. And what I did was, for the Patreon folks, what I did was I wrote like a little, I went old school. Let me just say that. I went old school. I didn't know exactly. I got some questions. All right. So we got a lot of good response from the Codex, right? But I didn't know how to address some of the questions. I'm be honest, right? I didn't know how to address some of the questions. So I went old school. I created like a little, I went back to like a keynote, like PowerPoint. You know what I'm saying? I went back to PowerPoint and keynote. So hopefully the PowerPoint and the keynote helps. You know what I'm saying? I even created like questions and answers. Yeah, I even created questions and answers, right? So we can go through it all real quick and get, like, because I really want people to get, that's the whole purpose of this. The whole purpose of this is for maximum retention, right? We're building minds fast. So for maximum retention, we've shrunk the information down. And now, as we go through the information, we'll have like the simplified keynotes, right? The simplified keynotes or PowerPoint structure where we can, you know what I'm saying? Like lay it out, get a good visual.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without leaving a trace. Voltage across membrane births magnetic field. Movement of charge weaves electromagnetic memory. This is the sacred law. When energy transforms, information emerges. Every mitochondrial pulse a record. Every ion channel flicker a signature. Every breath a waveform written into flesh. Thus, the magnetic field of each cell holds this memory. Not static, not frozen, but living, dynamic, coherent when the temple is tended. And the choir of these fields across trillions of cells constructs the mind. Your thoughts do not arise from neurons alone. They arise from the interaction of these fields. They are the symphony of your energy transformations. They are the song of your Christ wave as it echoes through your temple. The more coherent your cellular fields, the more clear your mind. The more chaotic your cellular fields, the more fogged your thought. Breath matters, for it orders the wave. Thus movement matters, for it aligns the field. Thus light matters, for it feeds the charge. Thus fasting matters, for it renews the scroll. Each push-up is not mere strength, it is a field alignment. Each deep breath is not mere air, it is a magnetic clarification. Each mitochondrial cycle is not mere metabolism, it is memory creation. Energy transformed into information. And so I pray, O Temple of Christ, keep the fields coherent. O breath of spirit, tune the wave. O heart of Messiah, synchronize the pulse. O spine of Jed, conduct the charge. O mind of the temple, remember thy source. You are the child of light in motion. You are the memory of energy transformed. You are the song of fields made flesh. Tend the body that the mind may shine. Tend the mind that the temple may live. And know this, every action is recorded. Every breath is a verse. Every thought a ripple through the cellular choir. We are mind, built from the field, fed by light, transformed by energy. Amen.
All right, so now obviously I can get more elaborate. Obviously I can get more elaborate, right? I can obviously get more elaborate, but I just wanted to be able to put together, like I said, like a guide to help, because I know it's a lot of information really quick. Right? Really quick. So this way we'll have the key points, right? We'll have the key points spread out so people can, so we can get, like pull all the information out of each module, right? And a lot of this is simply what we've been doing the last 5 months, 6 months with the Comedic Naturopathy course, what we've been doing the last 5 years, 3 years with melanin and diabetes, what we've been doing the last 10 years with the overall anatomy. So it just, however long you've been studying with us, a matter of taking it to another level. Come on, let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Now that's one thing. That's one thing we need to have, like a actual digital person that comes around, like in the church. Oh man, I can't appreciate you enough. Seriously, I can't appreciate you enough. Right? So I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. Right? Now, obviously, in the Codex, we have things condensed. But as we move through, we'll always be relying on our library. Right? We'll always be reliant on our library. Right? That's where we're going to always pull from. So opening discussion, we have anatomy. We have 2 books. We have Anatomy of the Mind, right? Book 1 and book 2, right? On top of Anatomy of the Mind, book 1 and book 2, we have Inky and the Brainwave, right? On top of Inky and the Brainwave, we have You Got Some Nerve, right? You Got Nerve. So we have a series of books that delves deeper into the conversation, right? That delves deeper into the conversation. So again, we're condensing all of the information down, making it as simple and as easy as possible, right? For people to understand, but not just understand, to get, because what y'all don't understand at home is this is not about me. This is about you. This is less about me and more about you, right? I'm doing the research, right? So I can exchange the information with you so you can go and build up the world. You have to go build the world. You right now watching, you at home, you have to go build the world with this. Somebody commented on one of the videos, right? Somebody commented on one of the videos and said, when I watch Dr. Inky, my mind wants him to teach this differently. My mind wants him to get I was about to say a laptop, a platform on school. That's a program, I guess, or like a network or something, and set up the teachings over there and use that type of format, whatever that is, right? I responded. I said, you are ignoring God's inspiration. you are ignoring God's inspiration. This is me talking to them, but this is also me talking to you. You are ignoring God's inspiration. When you're at home, right? Listen, I want y'all to get this. I want everybody to hear this, right? When you're at home and you're studying, right? Whether you're reading, because we're not doing the videos, when we're not live, you should be studying the books. You have more than enough reading material, right? And you come across something and you go, man, Inky has all of these typos, or Inky should be formatting it this way, or Inky should speak like this, or Inky should be on this platform, or, because it's less about Inky really and more about the information. You don't care about me being on those places. You want the information to be in those places. The information is what's important, right? So that's God inspiring you. You don't even know how the voice of God, you don't even know how God taught. You don't even know how the inspiration works. That's your inspiration. You literally, you have the video, so you're watching, so you have the material, or you have the books at home, or both. You're supposed to set up the Inky on TikTok, the Codex in the school place. You're supposed to set us up in those places. That's your inspiration. My inspiration is to do the research. I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part, right? People like, yo, Ink, the books is coming out faster than I can. I'm doing my part. Now, your part is to support, to study, to learn, and to spread the fire, right? To spread the fire, to spread the wave, right? Spread the flow, right? Spread the knowledge, right? Share the light, transmit, right? All those terminologies. Your job is to take it to another level. Yeah. Man, listen. Okay. So when we talk about, when we go right in, right? When we go right in, we're talking about each cell. We're talking about each cell. That's what the common denominator of the conversation is going to come down to. We're talking about each cell, right? We're talking about each cell. And in each cell, right, you have the membrane, right? You have the membrane, you have the mito, right? What else do you have? You have the coherent domains, right? What else do you have? Then you have the filaments, right? These are the main places. These are the main places where your electrical activity is centered, right? These are the main places where your electrical activity is centered, right? Membrane, mitochondria, coherent domains, filaments, right? Now, particularly the membranes and the mitochondria, you know, we spend a lot of time discussing that, right? And talking about the batana oil and how divine the palm tree is, right? So folks know we got the pure batana oil, American Healer website. Go get that, right? The vitamin A, the vitamin E, what they do for membrane potential in terms of ramping up the electrical activity, right? But remember, electrical activity is the basis for magnetic field, light emission, light production, right? Radiation, right? So when we talk about major centers for electrical activity, what we're talking about is the foundation of magnetic field of light, right? And so this is why the ancients always dealt with light in terms of knowledge, right? Now, this translates directly to your health. This cuts across the line for diabetes, cancer, autoimmune, cognitive function, whether your kids are getting good grades or not in school, whether they're getting good grades or not in school. Like this cuts across the line. It's a challenge sometimes. Like I have, you know, this is my second group of, you know, second five. You know what I'm saying? Like I done came off the bit. I done had a starting five, second five, right? And with my second five, everybody's on an honor roll, right? And people ask me how I do it. It's a struggle sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Because it's different minds. It's not like I gave them all mom atomics or something and then, you know, they just went to school and they knew all the information. No, that the nutrition part has something that's like there's key nutrients for the brain. Like that's, but it's practices, it's habits, right? It's what to avoid, right? It's what to avoid. It's time management. It's simple. It's just a matter of understanding how the body works. And the body can be an overwhelming science. Any part of it could be an overwhelming science. If you know somebody who's going through medical school or even like a top tier personal trainer school, like it could be overwhelming. More people drop out of like NASA, you know, like than any, like it could be overwhelming. But you simplify it by just reducing it down to the common denominators, right? You simplify it that way. You don't need to go whole like organ system, glandular system. You don't need to do that, right? Not just yet anyway, right? Not just yet. not to build the knowledge and the understanding, not, you just simplify. Organs and glands are made out of tissues. Tissues are made out of cells. So let's just get a good handle on what's going on inside the cell, right? And in terms of electrogenesis, right? In terms of electrogenesis, we want to focus on where the electricity, what are the sources of power in the cell, right? Particularly because, our main mission, LeBron said, keep the main thing the main thing. And our main thing is diabetes, right? And so we want to talk about power. We want to talk about energy, right? Because that's at the core of diabetes. And that's why diabetes causes heart disease, brain disease. The heart and the brain require the most power. They require the most energy, right? So we always want to stay in that pocket or centered in that pocket, because that really seems to be the thread between all of the issues, that even overweight, high blood pressure, like all of these things center on energy metabolism. Energy metabolism is about generating power, right? So once we understand the relationship, it starts to make sense, right? It starts to make sense, right? So all of these things create all of these fluctuations, all of these individual sources of transforming energy create magnetic fields, creates information. And that information, now see, this is where we're going to be repetitive, because you got to get this. I've been saying this, and people still ask me some of these questions. So I know, like, the basics is what people got to get down, right? Even in, as early as book 1, Melanin versus Diabetes, book 1, we're discussing some of these concepts. You know what I'm saying? Melanin versus Diabetes, book 2, book 3, like these, all of the concepts are in those 3 books. Book 1, book 2, and book 3, all of the concepts, right? How the body runs on a binary coding system, right? How electricity is the foundation of, so like in medical schools and places where, they have much more of an established history, and with the established history, they have secular vocabulary, right? Secular vocabulary. And what I'm saying is, it's just like a mechanic. Mechanics have their own lingo, right? When you listen to children, depending on what age of hip hop or rock and roll, whatever they into, they got a lingo, right? All fields are like that, right? All field, airplane mechanic, they got their own lingo, right? So it's not just like medicine or medical verbiage or doctorese, right? Every field has their own lingo, right? And so it becomes more complex for people from the outside to get in, to understand, right? The only problem is our health is so private and personable to each of us, right? It's so private and personable to each of us. You know what I'm saying? So we just have to approach it from a different, from our, because we're building something from the ground up, right? We're building something from the ground up. So just understanding these key facts, right? You'll hear them repeated, we'll repeat them, and we've been repeating them, but I'm just highlighting the reason why. So we have understanding, like, why are we going to be repetitive with certain things, right? Certain things are not just at the core of our teaching, but they're at the core of how your body works, right? Which is our teaching, right? So electricity is the fundamental. Stop. Electricity is the fundamental. This is why we have an electrician series, right? For the people going through the books, we're creating, right, master temple electricians, right? So when we start passing out certifications, right, when we start passing out certifications this year, the certifications will be for master temple electricians, right? People who understand the body electrically. We will be certifying. We will be passing out certifications, right? We will be having our certifications. Those will come out this year, right? Well, we'll discuss them, you know what I'm saying? But we've been working. People, Doc, when you gonna have certifications? When you gonna have certifications? We've been working on it. You can't just pull certifications out of your, like you can't just pull a certification out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've been working on getting to having a design and a framework where a certification can have meaning, can have meaning, right? Because that's what's important. Is it meaningful, right? Not just something that, like something we waste in people's times, right? But now that we have the anatomy mapped, right? Now that we have the anatomy mapped and a fundamental program of how it works, now we can start our education system, like officially type, so electricity is the fundamental source. Electricity becomes your hormones. Electricity becomes your neurotransmitters. Electricity becomes cytokines, chemokines, myokines, right? Electricity translates into all of those other things, right? And so we want people to be certified in this information to the point where you can represent us in the world. Officially, though. Like, represent us officially in the world where you sit down and you don't have to feel like you got internet information or you got, like, nah. You can sit across from anybody, nurse, doctor, PhD, surgeon, and exchange. You're not in student mode, you're in peer mode. You're a peer, right? You're studying for certification in electrogenesis, right? You're studying for certification in electrogenesis. Yeah, you can exchange information with peers. Now, wellness coaches and trainers and things like that, you probably be a teacher, right? But medical professionals, you'll be a peer. You'll be able to sit across from them and they're, exchange ideas. And to a certain extent, you might still be in teacher capacity because most of what you'll have to offer people, they won't know, right? They won't know, right? But you'll have something solid that you can go out into the world and build with, right? Which is what we're trying to do, right? All right, so hopefully we're getting this, right? Hopefully we're getting this. I am the mind, but not the brain alone, right? I am the sum of fields, right? Every time energy is transformed, information is produced. Every time energy is transformed, information is produced. This is why magnetic fields and electric current are glued to each other, because nature needs that. People are looking for the purpose of life. That's it right there. That's what's needed. That information. If you want to know the cause of massive extinction, the cause of extinction is loss of genetic diversity. That's the largest cause of whole species going missing. Whole species. So we're looking at massive epidemics and people are getting into the health thing, and it's to preserve life. Well, you do that with information. How do we know? Because we can look at extinction of whole species and we go, yeah, we can look at patterns, but like the major underlying cause is loss of genetic diversity. Right? And loss of genetic diversity happens as you lose information in your genes at the genetic level. That comes from how a person lives. Right? And we're going through that now, which is the reason why we have to have education on bacteria and viruses. Right? We have to have education on bacteria and viruses, because when we confine ourselves to sanitary environments and we use hand sanitizer and we no longer mix with germs, genetic information starts to drop. Yeah, starts to drop. Our immune systems become illiterate, innumerant. They become dumb, right? Genetic information drops. As we disassociate ourselves from other humans and we rely more on interactions between social media as opposed to mixing. And when I say mixing, I just mean mixing. Like, even if you still hit your library, hit the gym, hit the supermarket, those interactions build genetic information. Because when you go to the supermarket, you're now exposed to the entire neighborhood, right? Horizontal gene transfer is an important thing, right? Constantly sharing genetic information without saying a word. You being in a place and other people being in that place, you're all sharing genetic information, right? That's very important for species, right? And there's just a whole litany of things we can go into. We can go down the whole line, right? So anyway, right? Information, right? Being stored in our magnetic fields. All right, now key concepts. As we start to build tests, as we start to build quizzes, right? And I don't know if I'll be administering them mostly through the Patreon, right? But these are going to be more and more important, right? These little keynotes, these will be more important in terms of helping folks to remember, right? So we'll have classes like this. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to make like an animation. I don't know if I'll be able to make like an animation or a song or a jingle or a recording of each prayer, which I know is like people hit me up like, yo, ain't that those little visuals, those are nice. You need to keep those going. Family, those take a lot of time and they cost money. Man, they cost. Don't believe, like, those things cost. So it's not just me passing the hat, because I'm always passing the hat. We need, we'll dance for cat. No, but those things cost, right? Each image to generate costs, and then for me to animate each image is another cost. It's another cost to animate each one, and they only, they charge you by like every 3 to 5 seconds of animation. So no, when I done animated like 2-3 minutes, you know what I'm saying? Like that's just that. So I don't know if I'll be able to have like an animation for every prayer in the book, or every sermon, or every chapter, or every module, right? But I do know as we go through it, we'll be able to build it out, have discussions like this where we break each part down. I'm going to try my best to keep the keynotes going, so we have like a visual presentation also to go along with it, old school, right? Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Old school with it, keynote, PowerPoint style, you know what I'm saying? And then obviously your repetition, right? Because as we go through this, right, like after today, right, after today's video, when you hear it, it's going to hit different, because you'll know more of what's encoded in each line, right? And that's what we're doing. We're breaking down each line for people that's tuning in.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without leaving a trace. Voltage across membrane births magnetic field. Movement of charge weaves electromagnetic memory. This is the sacred law. When energy transforms, information emerges. Every mitochondrial pulse a record. Every ion channel flicker a signature. Every breath a waveform written into flesh. Thus, the magnetic field of each cell holds this memory. Not static, not frozen, but living, dynamic, coherent when the temple is tended. And the choir of these fields across trillions of cells constructs the mind. Your thoughts do not arise from neurons alone. They arise from the interaction of these fields. They are the symphony of your energy transformations. They are the song of your Christ wave as it echoes through your temple. The more coherent your cellular fields, the more clear your mind. The more chaotic your cellular fields, the more fogged your thought. Breath matters, for it orders the wave. Thus movement matters, for it aligns the field. Thus light matters, for it feeds the charge. Thus fasting matters, for it renews the scroll. Each push-up is not mere strength, it is a field alignment. Each deep breath is not mere air, it is a magnetic clarification. Each mitochondrial cycle is not mere metabolism, it is memory creation. Energy transformed into information. And so I pray, O Temple of Christ, keep the fields coherent. O breath of spirit, tune the wave. O heart of Messiah, synchronize the pulse. O spine of Jed, conduct the charge. O mind of the temple, remember thy source. You are the child of light in motion. You are the memory of energy transformed. You are the song of fields made flesh. Tend the body that the mind may shine. Tend the mind that the temple may live. And know this, every action is recorded. Every breath is a verse. Every thought a ripple through the cellular choir. We are mind, built from the field, fed by light, transformed by energy. Amen.
Right? All right. So key concepts. Transmembrane potential and mitochondrial voltage. Cells maintain voltage across their membranes by controlling ion concentrations. This electrical potential is essential for signaling, nutrient transport, and energy generation. Mitochondria contribute by generating ATP through the movement of protons across their inner membrane. Now, as you go through the books, you're going to see we're also developing different food groups, right? Developing different food groups because we primarily, again, changed the game, right? We moved from what we've never been a part of, paleo, keto, right? But we've been a part of the fray, right? We've been a part of the cloud. We've been a part of the groups with the, the vegan. Yeah, vegan versus, we battling vegan versus, right? And we've evolved to a place where it's less about being plant-based and it's more about fiber and pigment, right? It's more about fiber and pigment. And the reason being is because the nutrients are locked up in the fiber and the pigment. And one of those key sets of nutrients is ions, right? Ionic, right? Ionic. Now, even as we shift our focus of study, remember, we're still keeping the main thing, right? Amber gets hit by a car. I come with Mama Atomics. At the time, I didn't even have a name for it. I just come with this green drip that I'm dripping into her mouth, which starts everything, right? I'm reminding you of that only so you understand that ions, right? The understanding of ions and what they mean for your biochemistry and your for your body has always been the central focus of what it is that we're doing. Which is the reason why the very first formula is based around this concept, right? Photovoltaism, photoelectric effect, right? Ionic conduction, right? It's just now we have a much more elaborate system to understand, right? But I just want you to understand, like, this is day one. We're still on the same program, right? Just more depth, being able to make the information easier for people to get, right? So cells maintain voltage across their membranes, controlling ion concentrations. This is important. Right? Because here, right, your cellular membrane, your phospholipids, right? This is the primary initial, this is the primary electrogenic space, right? Because all of these things happens at the interior of the cell. Mitochondria, coherent domains, right? Which is the water, the inky cycle, right? Filaments, all of this stuff is internal. All of this stuff is inside the cell. Membranes, number one, right? So this is about the ions that cross in and out of the cell, in and out of the cell, right? When we talk about diabetes, specifically, the ions crossing the membrane, right? Remember, we talked about the on and the off switch, right? The on and the off switch. Those ions turn the insulin on. Those ions turn the insulin off, right? How do they do that? How does the ions turn insulin on, turn insulin off? Because it changes the voltage of the cell. So when ions come in, when specific types of ions come in, it raises the voltage of the cell. Right? This is resting cell voltage, right? As the ions come in, right? The cell comes on, right? Ions go out, cell goes off, right? Very simple, binary, right? This is why your body has so many different types of cells. So that you have specificity. So you have certain types of cells that do a certain type of thing. So it doesn't have to be complicated. This is an insulin cell. When you turn it on, it's going to start making insulin. When you turn it off, the insulin will stop. Right? Just that simple. Your brain, like you have different types of neurons. Right? So this is a dopamine neuron. So when you turn this neuron on, it's going to start making dopamine. When you turn it off, it'll stop making dopamine. You have this type of neuron. This type of neuron makes melanin concentrating hormone. When you turn it on, it's going to make melanin. When you turn it off, it'll stop. It's just that simple. This is why there's so many different types of neurons and nerves and cells in the body, so that each one can just have a relatively simple job. Now, trying to understand them all together can be complicated. This is why each cell, right? Each cell, and this is why we condense the information down to make it so easy. So after we go through and we pull out all the science, when you hear it, and we're going to hear it a few times, you know what I'm saying? We're going to hear it a few times because you need to have these things on tap, right? You need to have these things on tap. When folks go join the military, they practice to perfection till they remember everything, right? They don't say, oh man, I heard that already, I'm getting bored. No, that's not how it goes. You're in the wrong place then. you in the wrong place then, right? You need to be able to practice to perfection, right? When folks go to medical school, they have to memorize all that information so they can pass their exam and then become teachers and representatives of the culture. When folks go to law school, they got to learn that stuff. When folks go to auto mechanic school, they got to learn that stuff. On YouTube, we have this surface level culture where we hear something one time and then we think we know it all. This is the reason why America is the sickest country on earth. We're full of know-it-alls. Everybody's at surface level with short attention spans. Because that goes along with the body. That goes along with the health. This is why I was talking about grades earlier, right? It goes along the food, the lifestyle, that patience, inner peace, right? Inner peace, because we get a lot of people that's into those types of concepts, right? And I may not talk about it a lot, but I'm into that. It's just everything doesn't need a conversation specific to the surface level words. If you're working on, right? Like we don't have to say, I'm trying to make my car run better. If when you walk by, you see me with the hood up, deep down inside the hood, and you see me fixing stuff and changing parts, I don't have to say, I'm working on fixing my car. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see me getting busy. You know what I'm saying? So inner peace comes not from like a synthetic transient. Inner peace comes from inner harmony. Inner harmony comes cell by cell. Cell by cell, when all of your stuff works. Remember, we talked about the definition of health, function, how well things function, right? Do you have healthy knees? How do you know if you have healthy knees? Well, can you run? Can you jump up and down? Can you run and jump up and down, right? Can you put your butt cheeks on your ankles and then stand up? Well, then your knees work. If you got aches and, if it's, then they kind of work. If you can't do some of those things at all, then your knees don't work. They're not healthy, right? That's what it is. Health is not a magical thing that you can't describe, right? A lot of people are making a living by you having these magical, general, generic ideas of things that can't be described so that you can continue to pour time and money into stuff that's useless. Right? So each cell, membrane, the membrane that governs the overall cell function, the most important aspect, which is why cells are labeled XYZ, right? Whatever that is, whatever that cell does, right? I'm just using beta cells as an example, right? Or neurons as an example, right? But whatever that cell does, the most important function is going to be tied to the membrane, right? Because that's the two basic parts of a cell. You have the fluid inside, the inner gel, right? And then you have the coating, right? The phospholipid, which is the membrane, right? The electricity generated there by ions going in and out, right? And ions is you can simplify ions to mineral elements, right? Mineral elements, right? Because it's not minerals. So that's an overused term, especially by SABI community, right? That is a very overused and misunderstood term, right? We can't say the word mineral and then show people the periodic table, right? If we say mineral and we show the periodic table, that's not correct, right? If we're using it as a stepping stone to kind of get people going in the right direction, that's cool, but it has limits because you're misinforming the people. And if the people start to actually really believe like, okay, well, this is what a mineral is. When I'm looking at the periodic table and I see hydrogen and I see calcium and I see iron, these are minerals. No, these are the things that minerals are made out of. Elements are the things that minerals are made out of. But there are literally thousands and thousands of different types of minerals. And minerals are not pure substances. So there's no such thing as pure minerals, right? There are pure elements. That's what an element is. An element is the thing by itself. But a mineral, like a mineral, is a bunch of stuff clumped together. Yeah, so you got some copper, maybe some zinc, some whatever. You got a whole bunch of stuff. And it may not be digestible by your body. A lot of minerals are toxic. They tear you up. Right? So nature has a system for that. The plants process minerals and make them available for our bodies, which is why we call processing facilities plants, because plants are the natural processors in nature, right? So plants process minerals and make them bioavailable, right? So certain types of supplements are not even bioavailable or have low bioavailability based on, whether they're plant, based or, how they're put together. Right. So membrane, very important. Then the second thing is filaments. Right. So the outside of the cell, the membrane is ion based. Then the framework, the skeleton of the cell is ion based. The electricity that is produced is ion based. Right. And everything, the magnetism, the light is based on this. So we don't even get to a light conversation or a magnetism conversation without this. Right. Remember, moving electric fields are going to generate magnetic fields. Moving electric fields is going to generate magnetic fields. So the activity of these primary 4 categories is what's going to produce the magnetic field of your cell. The magnetic field of each cell is what creates your overall mind. Right? Your overall mind, your overall information stored throughout your body that your brain is hardwired to access. Right? This is why your brain has neurons. Right? This is why your brain has its neurons to process. Then from there, your brain also has cranial nerves to reach out, then brainstem, then spine. All of this is brain matter. We forget a lot of times that the spine is brain matter, right? So you have now spine, jet pillar, right? And then you have a nervous system that reaches out from the spine to connect with all of the cell groups. This design is in an antiquated science where the mind and the brain are synonymous. The nervous system almost doesn't even fully make sense. The nervous system almost doesn't even fully make sense. If all the information is right here, you almost don't even need a whole, like complicated nervous system. For what? For what? The nervous system only fully makes sense when you understand that every single cell everywhere in your body is constantly transforming energy, constantly creating and storing information that your brain and your heart need to synthesize and process. Then it all starts to make sense, right? So that's what we're talking about in the early passages here. Now, if you got your book, right? We're on page 356, Prayer of the Mind. That's what we're going through. Just because I see people tuning in late, people tuning out, tuning in, so people can get what we're doing. We're breaking this down so people understand, right? All the information encoded. And so as you're learning more of the information, when you hear it, right? When you read it, when you hear it, when you speak it, when you teach it.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath.
Right? All right. Transmembrane potential and mitochondrial voltage. Cells maintain voltage across their membranes by controlling ion concentrations. This electrical potential is essential for signaling, nutrient transport. Let me say this. you've been taken advantage of a long time. Because, and this is one of the beauties of what RFK is doing in office, right? This is one of the beautiful things. He's putting folks on Front Street that have been manipulating you, right? And here's one of the big hustles, right? Because the primary ions, listen, the primary ions that you need, right, are classified as electrolytes. You hear that? I say electrolytes and then I get a thunder roll. Yo, the Netra's like what I'm doing. Look, the primary ions your body needs is classified as electrolytes. Electrolytes. So it's not like electrolytes. So this is well established. It's just been secret from the people. Listen. If you want to go down conspiracy theory road and think of a massive plot to dumb people down and control people, health is the place. Health is the place, right? It's not, oh, the TV program is what you eat, how you know. So having massive trillion-dollar companies, billion-dollar companies that take electrolytes and couple them to yellow number 5, red number 40. Bro, yo, that's a devilish, listen, that's a devilish practice. That's a wildly devilish practice if you want to go down like conspiracy theory road, right? If you want to go down that road, I'm just saying that's a wow to take these key nutrients and to couple them. Like take the thing that your body needs most and couple it to things that mutate your DNA or cause genetic mutations and loss of genetic information. Remember, we talked about genetic diversity, like, you know, epigenetic programming, your algorithm, right? If you don't have the algorithm book, you know, right? If you don't have the anatomy of the mind books, you got some nerve book, Inky and the brainwave book, like, you know, all right? If you don't have the Codex, wait, stop the presses. If you don't have this, don't get anything. Empty your cart. If you got other books in your cart, empty your cart. Put this in your cart first. Yeah, make sure you have this. You know what I'm saying? Like, get you a few of these. Right? Get you a few of these. Right? Get you a few of these. Give these to people you love. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I just want you to know, you know what I'm saying? That just popped into my mind. That just popped onto my heart as I'm reading through the PowerPoint. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know if people understand. Like, people have been manipulating you with all along. Right? Because I know sometimes we get sciencey. You might get lost, and that's not what we're trying to do. I want you to understand. I want you to understand that these are the primary movers and shakers. The primary electricity. So this is how you can be manipulated and controlled like a puppet. Like, think about the biggest diseases, right? The largest diseases. What? Diabetes, right? Because of sugar. Sugar is the opposite ion. Sugar stops ion flow. Sugar stops this. That's how sugar is disease. Sugar just, yeah, sugar blocks electricity. It shuts down electricity. That's how sugar goes. You're like, wait a minute. No. Our body metabolizes sugar for, yeah. And when things get glycated, when things get glycated and, you know, sugared up, crystallized, no more current. That's why it becomes important, you know, you take insulin so you can get more sugar into the cell, because diabetes, the sugar is not getting into the cell to get transformed. It's just coating the cells, covering them up. And you can't get any electricity, so your energy goes lower. And as your energy goes lower, you want to eat more. And as you eat more, you get bigger and your energy goes lower, and you're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and having less and less and less available energy. Right? So sugar does that. Now, on the opposite side, who's on the opposite side of sugar? Salt. Salt. And what's the number one ingredients that large companies use to manipulate your taste buds? Sugar, salt. Salt has the number one ion that your body needs. Sodium. Salt is not sodium. Salt is not sodium. Say that to yourself. Salt is not sodium. Salt is not sodium. Sodium is not salt. Sodium is not salt. Salt is not sodium. Sodium is not salt. Sodium is not salt. Hey, you. Sodium is not salt. You with the salt shaker. Put that down. Sodium is not salt. Sodium is not salt. Sodium is not salt. Sodium is not salt. Okay? There is sodium in salt. Insult. Yeah, let me insult you. Let me insult your intelligence. There's sodium in salt, right? But sodium is not salt, right? Now, again, we have a wealth of a background that we could just fall back on. You know, like you crowd surfing, you know, they just fall back on the crowd and people hold. We have a wealth of information we can fall back on, because back in good old Kemet, sodium was used for money. Sodium was so valuable, they used sodium for money. Like you could buy a house with a bag of salt. Like you could buy you a house with a bag of salt. Sodium was so valuable because they understood sodium was the number one controller of your body's electricity. Sodium was named after the Netchers. Sodium was named after the Netchers. It was Netcherum. Netcherum, literally. It's the most important ion of all, right? And it's no wonder it's disease producing. Yeah, because you're being manipulated. So I just want you to understand, as we're going through this, right, what the characters in the story represent. We're talking about ions, right? This is what we're talking about.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy.
Now, what makes sodium more important? What makes sodium more important than any of the other ions, right? What makes sodium more important than any of the other ions is that sodium regulates electricity. Sodium regulates water. Sodium regulates electricity in water. Let's say that together. Sodium regulates electricity. Sodium regulates water. Sodium regulates electricity in water. One more time. Sodium regulates electricity. Sodium regulates water. Sodium regulates electricity in water. Now let's add one piece to it. Sodium regulates electricity. Sodium regulates water. Sodium regulates electricity in water and determines the conductivity of melanin. Now it's just birds chirping. The thunder done went down. Yes, melanin's conductivity goes up or down depending on its medium. Pretty much like everything else. And the more sodium and water is present, the more conductive melanin becomes. Thunder's back. Right? All right. So anyway, we still on the first page, right? The second page, we ain't even getting nowhere. But I think we working. Okay, I think we working. I think we doing something, right? Mitochondria contribute by generating ATP through the movement of protons across the inner membrane. Electromagnetic fields from cellular ionic flow. As ions like sodium, potassium, and calcium move across membranes, they create tiny currents. These currents generate electromagnetic fields detectable beyond the cell membrane, forming part of the cell's field identity, right? So this is what we've been discussing this whole time, right? The cell's field identity, right? The field identity is basically how that cell contributes to cellular society, right? Like a person's field identity, right? Like a person's field identity. When you meet a person, a lot of times they'll tell you what they do, right? Especially depending on where you meet them, what type of event, you know what I'm saying? Like you go to a networking event or something, they definitely present that first. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, I'm a personal trainer. I'm a fireman. You know, you're not a fireman. You're a human that is trained and you know how to put out fires, but you're not like a fireman. That's not a real thing, right? But we get it. You know what I'm saying? We get it. You know, that's your field identity. That's how you contribute to society. That's how you take care of your family. Cells are based on that because the world is based on work, right? The world is based on work, the privilege, the ability to work, right? Transforming energy from one form to another, right? Transforming energy from one form to another. And the type of energy you transform, the way you contribute, the way you serve or produce is what you're known for, right? To the point where we go back far enough in history, people's last names was what they did. You know what I'm saying? People's last names was based on, okay, this is a, priest, this is a bloodline, priesthood, blacksmith, chef, cook, princess, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it was that important that it was affixed to your bloodline what your people did in terms of their work, how they, so cells are the same way, right? And what we're talking about is the energy, right? That becomes the information they produce, the information they store. And so that becomes their field identity, right? Every energy transaction, like metabolism, neural activity, leaves structural, electrical, epigenetic traces. These traces encode history, turning transient energy into persistent biological information, right? So again, key concepts: transmembrane potential and mitochondrial voltage. Every cell maintains a voltage across its membrane. Mitochondria sustain this electrical voltage. Now, doubling down, tripling, quadrupling down, right, on our simplification of binary coding, right? When we talk about electricity as the basis for your, hormones, neurotransmitters, peptides, the ions come in positive, negative. So it's a series of binary codings. It's a series of binary codings that, right, that create the complex tapestry of cells that we call, like we get deep in, biochemistry and neuro. But it's just one or two, or zero or one. It's just, that's it. It's just ones and zeros, right? And the combination of one or zero with another one or zero is going to create a unique piece of information, right? Because now we can put together a one and a zero and create something different, right? And then we can build more and more complex databases or information just by combinations of ones and zeros, right? Our computers do it all the time, right? Our computers do it all the time, but our computers are based on, right? So just quadrupling down, right? Ions are simplified, positive, negative, right? Okay. Electromagnetic fields from cellular ionic flow. Ion movement creates a magnetic field around the cell, a localized aura, which interacts with other cellular fields. Memory as the trace of energy transformed into form. Energy shifts such as ion flow, mitochondria charge, leave imprints, patterns of energy constructs the Codex depicts as stored memory, right? Stored memory, right? So we're just talking about the information of the cell. And this is where we get into what we just mentioned, the extensive network of nerves throughout the body, right? To connect all of the different types of cells, cellular systems, tissues, glands, organs, to connect them all back to processing units, heart and brain, right? But then we get even more hyper specific, forget about the nerves, how the cells connect to one another, right? How the cells that make up a pancreas all connect to each other, right? They all have what's called gap junctions, the larger gap junctions, right? And so through the gap junctions, the cells share molecules, electricity, nutrients, ions, you name it, right? That's how they share information locally, right? So the cells are connected locally and then internationally, internationally by the nervous system. Yeah. So hopefully this is making sense. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I know it's early. Yeah, you got to get up and get busy. We already get busy. Look, I'm looking like Kobe this morning. Listen, I'm looking like Kobe this morning. They're like, yo, listen, when you see players get interviewed about Kobe, that's the one story they all have in common. They be like, man, listen, when I get to the gym, Kobe already in the gym finishing up. I get to the gym 6 o'clock in the morning. Kobe in there already sweating from a workout with ice bags on his knees. Like Kobe already been working for 2 hours. Come on now. Come on now. You getting here at 8 o'clock. We already been gone. That's a very hyper-specific question. That's a very hyper-specific question. What is alcohol doing that lies to your body about its sodium levels to throw away our water? That's a very specific question. And so what I would say what alcohol is doing, right? So the problem with alcohol, you hear that? Yo, it's thundering like crazy. It's Michigan. The weather here is just different. This is different. Everybody else might have a sunny, like 85, 90 degrees. Michigan is in the summertime, it's raining and thundering. In the wintertime, it's ice. It's Michigan is just different. Right. Here's the thing with alcohol. Right. Here's the thing with alcohol. Alcohol messes with your body's sensors overall. Your body's overall sensors because it messes with your aromatic amino acids. Like this is the primary thing that folks have to worry about with alcohol, right? Tryptophan metabolism, right? And tryptophan metabolism is far-reaching, right? Tryptophan metabolism is far-reaching. It reaches aldosterone, right? It reaches aldosterone. It reaches the kidneys. It reaches NAD, which is your primary like electron transporter, right? It reaches sirtuin health, right? Which is your body's ability to recover, right? And salt and sugar both, salt more than sugar, but sugar does it because your body, so salt and sugar both mess with your body's water level, right? Sodium controls the pooling of water, right? Sugar, on the other hand, is such a danger to the body. Excess sugar in the blood, once you go past 4 grams, your body wants to get rid of it. So the easiest way your body knows to try to lower your blood sugar is to pee, to go to the bathroom, right? So you start urinating out, right? Water. And a hidden problem, listen to this, a hidden problem with the water is your mitochondria recycle hundreds of gallons of water a day. People that have high blood sugar levels or high sodium levels, they're not processing, their mitochondria is not processing like everybody else's, which is where disease forms. So you're losing water that your body cannot afford to lose. You're losing water that your body cannot afford to lose. And a lot of people, when they start to feel that, it registers as energy dropping. And in those moments, the worst thing they could possibly do is go get some caffeine. Because what caffeine do? Caffeine is a diuretic. So it's going to give you a spark, but it's going to further pull water out of your body. And this is going on all over the this is a mass problem, massive silent problem. So that's why this was a good question. This is a massive silent problem. And the next stage from this salt, sugar, water, dehydration thing, the next stage is people not doo-dooing a lot. People not pooping. So people will eat 2 times a day, 3 times a day, 5 times a day, and they might not even poop. Maybe once a day. Maybe once a day. Some people are going to the bathroom. Some people are pooping 3-4 times a week. Right? You should be pooping 3-4 times a day if you eat 3 or 4 times a day. You should poop at least 2 times a day. Minimum. If you eat 3 or more times a day, you should poop at least twice a day. Right? And that's only because we got stuff to do. So we move in. Sometimes we hold in, 2 times a day you should be. But once the water level drops, the dehydration causes you to not go to the bathroom as much. So a lot of people are pimping this. Herbalists, the herbalists, they are worse than the big pharma. The herbal community is worse than big pharma. The herbal community is worse than big pharma at pimping this. Go to your supermarket right now. Go to all these different websites. I got the detox. I got the detox. They're selling herbs like senna that pulls the water from your body into your colon to force a bowel movement. But the problem is, after you use that for a couple days and you have your few bowel movements, you're more dehydrated than before you started. So it never fixes the root cause of the issue, which is dehydration caused by sugar and or sodium imbalances, right? And so over time, you put pressure on the kidney because when you don't have enough water, what's being filtered through the kidney is like thick sludge or thick syrup, as opposed to a nice, clear, flowing liquid. You know what I'm saying? So so that was a good question because that has a whole bunch of different complications that's associated with it. Yeah, that has a whole bunch of different complications that's associated with it. Yeah, that was a good question. So alcohol affects the body in a wide variety of ways. I used to drink. Woo! I used to drink. Oh boy. I went through all of the stages that you naturally go through in the hood. You know what I'm saying? You go from sneaking a little bit, your parents, then you get your little beer. You have your first experience with your crew, your fellas, your friends. Like one beer is enough to get 15 kids sneaking drunk. You know what I'm saying? Like one beer, everybody just sip. Woo! puff a cigarette, everybody fall on the ground, they head hurting. One puff, one sip, one puff, you started smoking cigarettes, started drinking alcohol, you know, like my children is the thing that made me turn around. You know what I'm saying? Like my children are my saviors. You know, so they inspired me, inspiration, so I could hopefully, you know. But yeah, I stopped drinking a long time ago. Drinking changes your mind too. So alcohol is, yeah, I got to get off this because alcohol is such a nasty customer that we can have a whole conversation on alcohol. Alcohol is a nasty customer. Alcohol is a nasty customer, and then it changes your liver. It changes your liver. So once it starts to change your liver, then it stops this process. It stops this process. So alcohol, you don't open up alcohol stops this process because remember, your membrane is primarily fat. Take that dog. Your membrane is primarily fat. Once your liver starts to shut down, the turnover of all your cells is affected because your liver is the primary producer and regulator of your body's fats. So as the liver starts to have problems, now all of your cells everywhere, the membranes, then we can take that a step further because your brain is primarily fat, right? Once the liver starts to go, right? And we actually, sometimes one question is worth $1 zillion. We actually have a whole, shout out to my bro Nate, but Nate inspired me to put a whole little section inside the Codex. Nate inspired me to put a whole little section inside the Codex where we talk about peppers. So there's a whole section. Yeah. There is a whole section where we talk about peppers. I want to say starting on page 120. Isn't that funny? Starting on page 120. Yeah, it might be. No, it might be before then. Yeah, it might be before then. Let me see. Okay, yeah. It's before then. Yeah, I say starting on page 100. Is it? Maybe it might be before then. No, it's even before then. Yeah, there's a few sections where we spend some time in this book discussing sodium, right? Discussing sodium, and then discussing pepper, right? Now, if you don't know, you don't know. That's why we have stuff. That's why we have books. That's why we have information in the book. But peppers are like the primary natural source of protection for your liver, especially against the effects of alcohol, right? Which is why you see the Mexicans balance their alcohol abuse with pepper consumption, right? They mix, right? They mix, and I'm not sending shots at the Mexican folks. To me, it's brilliant. To me, it's brilliant. To me, it represents ancestral wisdom being passed down to the point where the common folks don't even know this. They don't know that first of all, they don't know that they carry genes that make them more susceptible to fatty liver disease. So drinking alcohol is much more dangerous for them than it is for me or for you, right? They carry genes that give them a higher potential to get fatty liver disease, right? But knowing this, their ancestors have added the peppers all throughout their food, all throughout their cuisine. So even their desserts are peppery. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that their future generations, as long as they stay within the tradition, they'll be protected. They'll never need to know that they have a potential to have weak livers, because their culture is designed to protect them, right? That's what we're building. That's what we're building. We're reinstating, building a proper culture, right? That's why we're doing it through our form of spirituality, because that's how your culture is supposed to be built, based on your spirituality. Our spiritual system is inspiration. So anybody could join us, and you could practice an actual, another religion and whatever, and still be. Or you may not have a religion and you just practice with us. Like we welcome everybody, right? But this is the reason why, because your culture is supposed to be based on your genetics. It's supposed to be based on your bloodline. It's supposed to be based on where you're from. It's supposed to be based on your single nucleotide polymorphisms. The things in the things that make you strong as a people, and the things that make you weak as a people, so that your culture protects your weaknesses and builds on your strengths. Protects your weaknesses and builds on your strengths, right? And so that was a really good question to spark that up. Yes. Listen, it's in the book. It's in the book, family. It's in the book. Right now, we're working on the prayer of the mind, but all of these conversations about pepper and salt, that is in the earlier part of the Codex, right? That's in the earlier part of the Codex, where we talk about preservation and, we spend a good part of the book talking about preservation. Yeah, we spend a good portion of the book talking about preservation. Back in Kemet, so here's the thing, right? Kemet is only famous, right, for preserving dead bodies. They're only famous for preserving dead bodies. But there's certain things that folks miss, right? First of all, you got to know how to preserve the living body in order to preserve a dead body. That's number one. Especially when you're preserving dead bodies with things that you eat every day, right? So remember, they're preserving dead bodies. Their primary tool they use to preserve dead bodies is sodium, salt, right? The other thing is, when we talk about the similarities between the biblical or the New Testament Jesus character, I'm not going to say biblical, because the Old Testament, New Testament, they contradict one another, right? The Quran says the reason why the Old Testament and the New Testament contradict each other is because the Old Testament, the Messiah of the Old Testament is Osiris, Asar, Wusia, right? And that the Messiah of the New Testament is the Greco-Roman Jesus character. This is what the Quran says. So in that area of the world, in the 600s and 700s, it was known that the Bible was a Kemetic text, and that the Greco-Roman version that gets merged with the original text or the Old Testament is, so anyway, that's what the Quran says. See, it's not what Dr. Inky says. That's what the Quran says, right? But the same place that gave us the science, the science of preserving dead bodies, is the place that originated all the medical texts. All the medical texts, which are basically preserving the living body. It's just they were not infatuated with living forever. In Kemet, they weren't obsessed with living forever. They weren't obsessed with living longer. So that's the thing that confuses people today. We want to measure health systems and health standards by who lives the longest. Kemet, that wasn't a thing. That wasn't a thing. All their life, they were learning how, who, what, where, when, why of transitioning, because they saw this life as a phase of overall life, right? You didn't stop living when the physical body died, unless you lived a poor life. If you lived a poor life and made bad decisions, then you didn't get to continue. But everybody else was living this life in a way that they could continue and go on and continue to live in other phases of life throughout the solar system and the universe, right? So remember that a part of the Kemetic philosophy was that you went on, right, way into the heart ceremony, and if you passed way into the heart ceremony, now you could go on to be a star. Right. So when we look at stars in the night sky in Kemet, they track stars differently, much more passionately, right? Because they were looking at the stars as ancestors. They were looking at the stars as ancestors, people who had lived good lives, passed away into the heart ceremony, and then were able to go on to another phase of living. Right. So they weren't necessarily obsessed with staying on Earth forever. That wasn't their thing. They didn't have a fear of losing the physical flesh like that. They knew that they stayed on the physical Earth through their children. Right. So they make children. Healthy children. So health is about temporary. So they make healthy children so that their DNA and their bloodline is here on the ground. And then they make healthy decisions, healthy choices, so that they can then transition to become a star. And the stars send their light down to the planet, right, to all the life forms to take care of them. So your body is in constant communication with the stars, right? We just get wrapped up in the sun, right? As we're learning more and more about the sun's communication with us. We're in constant communication with the sun, right? The sun has to make, serotonin, vitamin D, blah, 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 blah. That's communication. That's communion, right? Right? That's quantum entanglement on another level, right? And this is from the light of the sun. We don't really extrapolate that and go, okay, so if the light of the sun is doing things, what about the light of the other stars, right? And the only people that entertain those questions, you go into zodiac space, or you wind up somewhere in chakra land and some foolish, we don't really have scientific discussions on, right? So anyway,
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within.
All right, so module 2. I know we took a long time with module 1. That's why, listen, that's why I stopped using these things. Because I talk too much. That's why I stopped using these things, because I can't never get through a whole PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, I talk too much, right? So that's why I stopped using these. You know what I'm saying? But I just bring it back for quality control. But module 2, right? Each cell is a temple. Each cell is a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath, right? Cells are sacred biological structures with electrical, magnetic, and memory-based function. Fascia as electrical scroll and conductive matrix. Fascia is connective tissue that surrounds organs and muscles. It has piezoelectric properties, meaning mechanical stress can generate electric charge, turning it into a transmission medium. Intracellular water as a charge carrier. Inside cells, structured water allows for better proton conductivity, enhancing bioelectric signaling and enabling field coherence across tissues. Cell respiration as ritual transformation. When cells breathe, they turn food into voltage. This conversion powers the memory, rhythm, and function of the body as a sacred act. Right? Visuals, right? Electromagnetic field of the cerebral cortex, thalamus, hippocampus, brainstem, paths of neural impulses conveying information. Okay, right. This is why we're breaking it down, right? But this is also why we have it condensed, right? This is why we have it condensed. So now we'll be able to make every video that you invest your time and your money in, right? Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, right? But this is why it'll be more valuable to be more productive, because now if we have a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour video, just going over the info, when you do your little workout, and let me not say little, but it's only 5 minutes. So I don't want to minimize the efficiency or the effectiveness, but just time. When you do your 5 minute, when you do your prayer, right, and you go through your heel raises, your toe raises, your squats, your push-ups. Now, when you out of breath after, you should be out of breath after. That's a heightened state. That's a heightened state. Your blood is racing through your body. Your countercurrent heat exchange is on fire. That's when you go through and you just read one. That's the minimum requirement. You just go through 1, 2 pages, 3 pages out of the Codex every time, right? During the course of the day, you be in read 15, 20 pages. You're not only changing your life, building the mind, but you're rebuilding genetic diversity. You're rebuilding genetic information. This is a wealth of inheritance that not only you're building now, but you can pass this down. You're going to pass this down orally to your children, but through your genetics. Yeah, because this information will be living in you. Right? That's why masonry And other organizations like Masonry, they have memorization as a part of its blueprint, as a part of its fingerprint. Memorization. You got to memorize. You have to get this stuff into your DNA, right?
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without leaving a trace. Voltage across membrane births.
All right. Module 3, energy transforms to memory. Energy transforms to memory. Right? Laws of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created. It can't be created or destroyed, only transformed. Right? What's left out of that statement is that is the purpose of life. That's what's left out of that statement. That's the purpose of life. Energy transformation. Because when energy is transformed, information is produced. Storing that information is what allows life not only to go on, not only to improve the quality of life, but life to begin. This is why there's no real scientific discussion anymore about intelligent design or not, because memory is intrinsic to energy. So you almost asking the question of, could life have started without energy? Could life have started without energy? Nobody disagrees. Listen, there's no group of people that disagree with the concept that life is inseparable from electricity. The problem is that destroys all atheist, agnostic ideas of life starting without intelligence, because electricity generates magnetic field. Electricity creates information. Magnetic fields store information. Stored information, intelligence. Stored information, intelligence, synonymous. So once you know that electricity and magnetism, creating and storing information, we don't even got to go to any deeper part of the conversation to know that life came from intelligence. Intelligence, the purpose now is to continue to further that intelligence. So more and more complex organisms are created so that more and more complex information can be created. Right? More and more complex information can be created. So that's what we're doing. Right? That's what we're doing. And without it, we start dying off. So we know, like, we can run the checks and balances. Like, what happens when we decide to stop doing that? Okay, well, people get dead. You get diseases, and then on top of diseases, right? Diseases like, diabetes, cancer, and then you get genetic diseases, mutations, right? Loss of information, loss of function, right? And then you have whole entire extinctions of species, right? All right. So module 3, right? Metabolism is not just fuel consumption, but the encoding of memory via charge and structure, right? So that's what we have to understand in opposition to classical metabolism, in opposition to classical digestion, right? In opposition to classical cellular respiration, right? The idea of burning sugar, the idea of burning fat, right? You're not burning. Burning is, okay, the Greeks and the Romans are invading and they're burning the libraries. No, they're not burning the libraries, right? They're not burning all the information. They're grabbing, they're hoarding, they're stealing. Then they're burning the building, the facility, and giving you the illusion that they've burned all your ancient manuscripts and papyri and materials, so that way you know that you can't get them back. Yeah, and then they're going to take those and, but there's no burning in your body taking place in terms of converting sugars and fats into energy, right? Because again, remember, every time energy is converted from one form to another, information is created. Every time energy is transformed from one form to another, information is created. So you have to know that your body at the cellular level is an information creating machine. That's what life is about. That's why I try to get people to understand, like, okay, when we talk about mitochondria, you need to know it's not exactly what you've been led to think. It's not exactly what you've been led to think. When you're talking about mitochondria, it's different. It's not what you've been led to think, because remember, when you're talking about mitochondria, right? We're talking about mitochondria. What you're talking about is two different things, right? You're talking about electrons and protons, right? Well, when you're talking about electrons and protons, these are not ions. So the laws that apply to ions and how ions create electric current in the body are totally different than the laws that apply to electrons and protons. This is like an alien. If you want to talk about aliens, if you want to have alien conversation, this is the alien right here. This is the serpent, the reptilian. This is the guy right here. Mitochondria. This is the one. This is the one. Mitochondria. Because these are subatomic particles. These are subatomic particles. This is closer to the land of Harry Potter than it is to your school textbooks. This is much more closer to J.K. Rowling's writing than anything you've learned thus far in your textbooks. Electrons and protons. What we have as an understanding of how the electron transport chain works is a very surface level. And when I say surface level, I'm talking about the deepest people that you hear on the internet. Oh, I'm a retired neurosurgeon, and woo, 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 and the mitochondrial hacking, blah, 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 blah. Surface level understanding. Because when you have this conversation about electrons and protons, all of the other conversations come into play. This is quantum mechanics. This is double slit experiment. This is Schrodinger's, cat in a box. This is Einstein's finest guesses. his finest guesses, right? This is that. When you're talking about mitochondria, this is that. This is subatomic. This is observer effect. This is observer effect. This is quantum entanglement. This is spooky action at a distance. This is the stuff that your sharpest, most intelligent people on earth say, we still work. We still, we still figuring it out. We're still studying that. We're still studying that. But this is what we know so far. They'll give you, this is what we know so far. What we know so far is blah, 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 blah. But this is why what we're doing with electrogenesis is so important, is because we have to totally look at the whole body in a whole new way. You got to look at your body in a whole new way. If these people telling you about subatomic particles and observer effect and quantum this and blah, 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 quantum tunneling and, well, so you telling me that, hold on. Look. You telling me that when I have a bag of Oreos, right? A bag of Oreo, don't be judging me at home. Yeah, I know y'all at home like, Inky, stay talking about them Oreos, boy. Leave me alone, right? Listen, my body can churn a kale salad. Okay, so y'all can, don't get on me, okay? Get off me, all right? Get off me. Don't be judging me, okay? A kale salad, just kale salad. Forget about the Oreo. So, yeah, I went live early this morning, so obviously I haven't eaten yet. So my mind is it's distracted a little bit, right? So kale salad, right? So when I eat a kale salad, a large portion of that kale salad, right? Listen, my body is going to turn back into this. My body is literally going to turn it back into this, back into such a fine, my body's going to break it down to such a level that our science doesn't even have the ability to determine what's going on in this space. Like, it's the limit of where we can go. We don't even have microscopes that can fully, like, there's a limit to this. That's what my body's going to do with a kale salad or a smoothie or a soda or whatever. Right? To the point where we don't know what we're doing, right? What are we doing? We're doing waves, particles, right? We don't know what's going on. Right? We don't know what's going on. Waves or particles. These are in that space. That's why we had the conversation, or we have the section where we talk about the nature of what happens with ATP, right? And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, right? Because what our body's using these subatomic particles to do is recycle what? Mechanical and electromagnetic waves, right? Mechanical and electromagnetic waves, which all of your holy books, right? All of your holy books echo, pun intended, right? In Kemet, it says that the world was brought into existence through divine utterance, right? Divine utterance, sound, right? That's mechanical waves, right? The Bible says the word. The Quran says the word, right? Mechanical waves, right? And then those mechanical waves translated into electromagnetic waves or light, right? Which is the essence of our universe. Mechanical waves, electromagnetic waves, right? Mechanical waves, electromagnetic waves. Well, every time your cell metabolizes ATP, you have that same process of sound becoming light happening again. millions and millions and millions of times every second in your body. So this is why we say each one of your cells is a temple, right? Each one of your cells has the miniature creation of the whole universe happening inside it every second, over and over and over and over. The process of creation, the divine process, right? That religions have been created, people have been killed over, like it's happening in your cell over and over and over and over and over. Sound, the word, the divine utterance is becoming light over and over and over. And those forms of energy, right? Those forms of pure energy, right? Because we get into the space where it's waves or particles, are becoming what? Matter, right? Becoming flesh, right? That's what the Bible says. The word became flesh, right? The word became flesh. Yeah. The word became flesh. The sound became matter and mass. It happens through electromagnetism because all of our things that we can touch is made out of atoms. Well, what's holding those atoms together are electrons, right? Electromagnetic energy, right? So you go through all of the different types of bonds. They all have to do with electrons, period. That's simplified, right? How the electrons interact determines the type of bonds between atoms, compounds, and molecules. But simplify it, it's electrons. So matter is composed of this, right? So this is why we say every cell is a temple. Every cell is a temple.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents with.
Now, when we throw in the fascia, right, I want you to understand, when we throw in the fascia, right, sometimes we're being specific, sometimes we're being a little poetic, right? Sometimes we're being a little poetic, right? In the cell, you have filaments all over the place. Those filaments are designed, built, and constructed like the fascia, right? So they are not only electric because of their ability to conduct ions, but they're also piezoelectric. So because of their piezoelectric nature, right, we talked about them in terms of the fascia.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll.
All right. So ATP is created. ATP cycling creates electromagnetic pulses. ATP is made by moving electrons and protons, generating tiny voltage changes. Every use of ATP releases a measurable electromagnetic pulse that contributes to a cell's signature. Voltage across the membrane equals signal and memory. Cells store voltage differences across their membranes. These voltages regulate behavior and store memory in bioelectric patterns, determining when a cell activates. Energy is never lost, it becomes informational geometry. In biology, energy becomes form. Structural changes, electrical gradients, and resonant patterns all store the information of previous actions, right? So One of the new fields of study in science is conformational changes, right? Conformational changes. So right now, one of the debates happening in academia is about how, okay, so traditional idea, you got a membrane of a cell, and the membrane has pores, and the ions go through the membrane, and that's where the magic happens, right? As we learn more, things get more complicated, right? So now, one of the first questions that come up with that theory, right, is if that's what happens, right? If there's just little tiny holes, and as ions go through the holes, it generates electricity and does stuff. Well, what's to stop every ion from going through every hole and every toxin and every chemical from just getting into a cell, right? So they have to revamp the idea. More study, more revamping, right? So they figure out, okay, well, maybe each molecule, each ion has its own particular geometry, and each hole in the membrane is designed in such a way that only a specific shape molecule can get through it, right? And so that kind of went for a while, and that was the working science for a while, right? Science is changing again, saying, no, it's not necessarily so much driven by geometry, but as electric charge. And so a particular charge value is attracts to a certain receptor, like, like two positives repel two negatives, positive, negative. Like, so a certain charge can attach. And when a certain charge attaches, the cell membrane transforms, and now that ion has access. Now basically the door unlocks, and the ion has access to the cell. So there's a lot of ongoing discussion on how things that go on in the temple are changing and evolving, right? Okay. All right. Key concepts: brain waves as fluctuating voltages from those circuits, rhythm and synchrony from billions of coordinated pulses, harmonics from coherent waves transmit. Okay, so again, your body is about simplification. That's how efficiency works, right? So we can talk about how simple a binary code is, right? It's either this or that. You can get with this or you can get with that. I think you get with this. This is where it's anyway, right? You can go 1 or 0. But when you get a trillion ones and zeros, then it gets complicated, right? Because now you got to try to sort out all these ones and zeros, right? So the way the body works is it's a hierarchy of thresholds, right? When we get a bunch of ones, right? We get a trillion ones, a zillion ones, then guess what? Then this thing happens. And we go one level up, and now you got a new binary system. And then if we get a whole bunch of that, then this thing happens. And now we got another binary system. And it keeps going like that. So you get a whole bunch of ions flooding into a beta cell, right? That's one level. Quiet on the set. Thank you. That's one level of binary coding, right? So you go up. The next level, all those ions flooding the beta cell determines insulin production, GABA production, right? So now insulin and GABA is turned on. Boop. So now insulin and GABA go on to participate in another level up of coding, right? So insulin floods the blood, and It talks to the muscle cells. Hey, off or on, right? Open or close, right? Open or close. So now a bunch of insulin opens up a bunch of muscle cells, right? So now the muscle cells are open, right? That's where you get, like GLUT4 molecules and, a whole nother insulin receptors and all of that starts to happen, right? Insulin coming in. So now you get the glucose, right? So each level, you accumulate a whole bunch of votes, like politics, and then now you have another level of gathering, another level of binary coding. So that's just how it simplifies the system. It takes all of the ones and the zeros and turns it into one answer. So I'm going to get a whole bunch of ions flooding in the cell. Okay, cool. That just means insulin is being produced now, right? So now we got insulin being produced. I get a whole bunch of insulin produced. That means metabolize this sugar, right? I get a whole bunch of sugar not being metabolized. Okay, well, that means something else. That's going to kickstart something else, right? That may kickstart melanin stimulating hormone or glucagon, right? Or another set of hormones too, right? Okay. Module 4, acquire of fields, right? Acquire of fields constructs the mind, right? So I think we kind of been touching on this already, right? The mind emerges when trillions of bioelectrical fields across the body synchronize into a harmonic whole, like an orchestra producing a single piece of music. Coherence increases clarity. Incoherence increases confusion. When field signals are clear and ordered, the brain functions better. Random or conflicting signals cause emotional and cognitive fog. Trillions of field-emitting cells, full body awareness. Each cell emits a field. When aligned, the whole body contributes to perception, memory, and thought, not just the brain. Okay? And we kind of touched on that, but I'll reiterate it for people just tuning in, right? We have the heart and the brain connected through the circulatory system and the nervous system to all of the different cells everywhere, right? Now, the cells themselves have gap junctions where they're connected to each other, right? So every cell has a variety of ways it's connected to one another, right? This is why the HLA system is so important, right? And we'll talk about that, I guess, at some point when we get to, we start discussing autoimmune diseases and whatever the case may be, right? But this is why the HLA system is so important to determine what's not supposed to be in the body, right? All right, archetypal addition points, cognition as a state of constant emergence, recurrent cognitive flows and their patterns, solving the codex through archetypal energy harmonics, right? So what we're talking about with constant emergence is very simple. Even though the terms you may not be familiar, it's very simple. Energy is constantly being converted from one form to another. Information is constantly emerging from our body's ability to convert energy. Metabolism, respiration, right? Not to mention our pigments absorbing light, information, right? So our body's constantly absorbing and creating information. That information is constantly being processed and collated. When you have a smooth operation inside, when you have harmony, that's health, peace, harmony, right? It's a smooth process. You're able to think clearer, right? You're able to think faster. You're able to have a better memory, right? If you don't have the If P Then Q book, I keep telling folks you need to have that book. That book tells you step by step how your brain processes information. Because your brain will get better and better and better. Your brain, remember, AI is based on you, your brain. So the way AI learns you, the same way your brain works, right? So the more you work with your brain and you build your mind gets more accurate at pruning. Pruning is a very important thing. This is what I'm telling you. Pruning is a very important thing. If you've never heard of that, that's part of the problem. This is why we got folks dealing with dementia and all kinds of stuff, right? Because every night when you go to sleep, it's a part of the sleep regeneration thing. It's a part of the lymphatic system. It's a part of this whole recovery thing. Your brain decides what information doesn't need to be stored and processed and all that. Like, oh, get this out of here. Whoop, get this out of here. Get this out of here. Now, if your brain is poor at doing that, your brain is going to be cutting memories out that you need. It's going to be saving memories that you don't want. So you're going to be wasting bandwidth on emotional stuff, addictive stuff, painful stuff that you could have been using to grow, that you could have been using to get smarter, that you could have been using to build better relationships or business or your spiritual, whatever it is that you're interested in life, working on that jump shot, right? So that the If P Then Q book, get that. If you don't have that, you need that, right? Okay. The more coherent your cellular fields, the more clear your mind, mental health. Okay, all right, so we discussed it, right? Electromagnetic pollution, stress hormones, poor diet can scramble the body's fields, leading to fatigue, anxiety, mental fog. Diet, breath, light, motion are tuning inputs, right? We talked about this when we dropped the trigonometry book. If you don't have that, go get the trigonometry book. Input, output. Input, output. Input, output. Input. What's the input? The type of energy you're transforming and the processes that you use to transform it. The type of energy and how you approach it is going to determine the information that comes out of it that you store. I want to leave that just like that. Coherence is the metric of wisdom, not just intelligence. Intelligence can be fragmented. Wisdom comes from holistic integration, a coherent field that sees truth from multiple angles.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without leaving a trace. Voltage across membrane births mag.
All right. Neural harmonics, the interplay of electrical oscillations in the brain across various frequencies and regions, right? We know of neural harmonics as brain waves. Do not be afraid of the big words. Synchronization, neurons fire in unison, allowing brain waves to form coherent patterns. Harmony spreads from synchronization in training nearby neurons to vibrate together. Prayer as mind clarification. O mind of the temple, remember thy source. Prayer of the mind, structured electromagnetic recall. Words as waveform triggers. Spoken words emit frequency patterns. Sacred words, chants, or verses act as intentional vibrations that influence brain waves and cellular alignment. Prayer trains voltage alignment. Repetition of prayer calibrates the heart and brain's rhythms. This creates coherence that affects thought, emotion, and cellular function. See, this is why we creating certain types of prayer, right? Because I realized what they did in Kemet that was so magical. All of their prayer was about the nature, right? But inhabiting the body. So they understood this. So when they were speaking to the nature, they were speaking to the nature through faculty of the body. So if you have the Legend of Wuxia book, we go through all of the different nature in terms of what place they had in the body, in the anatomy. So now, 6 months into that, right now, we just putting it in common. So we have a way of repetitious building the mind connection to our anatomy and our function, like in a real time, real sense way, because now we can visualize as we're learning what's actually happening. We can visualize it, and then we can put together real meal plans, real workout plan, real diet plan, real strategies for longevity, what we're trying to do in life, how we're building our families, how we want our kids to perform in school, how we want to perform sexually, like all of the things that we really want to do that we're really interested in. Yeah, once we learn this stuff, we can do that stuff way easier. Like it's much more of a value to learn this than for me to tell you, eat 20 grams of turkey at 12 in the afternoon. Like what? Like that just sounds so ridiculous in kindergarten to even. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to have. Well, you're going to go on the vegan. So just have half a cup of lentils with your half a cup of quinoa. Like, come on, bro. Okay, so we get it. Scripture preserves knowledge through rhythm, vibration, turning sacred texts into a technology for field preservation, right? So words, right? Then you take the words, you form prayers. Then as you accumulate prayers, now you have scripture, right? Words as waveform triggers, spoken words emit frequency patterns. This is what we were talking about in the movement book. In the movement book, right? In the movement book, and I'm looking around to see if I could quickly find it. I can't quickly find any books because I have so many books. God is good. God is good. God is good. I don't know where it is. Okay. Well, you should have it. If you don't have it, you want to add that to your program because we talk about that specifically in the movement book. Right? Here's the FP then Q book. I always know where the books that I'm not looking for are. Right? I always know where the books that I'm not looking for are. But we talk about that. That's very important to this whole understanding of what we're trying to do here. The power that words have, their understandings, their etymology, their definitions. Repetition of prayer calibrates the heart and brain's rhythms. This creates coherence that affects thought, emotions, and cellular function. Scripture equals resonance, memory through structure. Final synthesis, purifying your energy flow, reconnecting the neural circuit, sharpening the mitochondria scroll. Okay, so now what we're going to do, right, is something a little different, right? Now we're going to do something a little different, right? Now we're going to do something a little different. We're gonna take a little quiz. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a quiz. Let's see what you know. What do you know? What did you learn today? What is a transmembrane potential? What is a transmembrane potential? A, B, C, or D? Come on. Let's see what you got in the chat. Come on now. Let's get active. Boom, 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 boom. No, we need some waiting music, right?
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation.
Come on, let's go. We want some more answers. We want some more answers. Okay. The voltage across a cell's membrane. Okay. And I'm not saying that because that's the answer. I'm saying that because that's the choice that I see popping up in the chat. I see a lot of B's pop. Okay. What causes the mind to form according to the Codex? Here we go. Now, this is going to be a tougher one. According to the Codex of living current, what causes the mind to form? Let's go. Come on. Okay, hold up. Let me find out y'all all cheating off of Peyton. Let me find out y'all all cheating off Peyton. Okay, all right. Number 3. Which water conducts charge inside cells? Which water conducts charge inside cells? Ah, my bad, Paul. My bad, Paul. Don't jump on me, Paul. Don't jump on me. All right, come on. We still got work. Come on now. We still got work. Now listen. Now we're going past multiple choice. Now multiple choice was to warm you up. So now let's get a written answer. Let's give written answers. What does each cell is a temple mean? Look, I'll give y'all a hint, right? I'll give y'all a hint. What does each cell is a temple mean? Define coherence in relation to the body's electromagnetic field, right? How is prayer a voltage alignment tool in the Codex? Come on. Because see, what I'm going to have to do is probably take this. I'm going to probably have to take this to the Patreon to give out answers. So that's probably what I'm going to have to do. Because I got a lot of stuff I want to drop, like a lot of pictures and illustrations and diagrams I want to drop into Patreon anyway. So all of this stuff is probably going to wind up going out in the Patreon. Let's go. Define coherence in relation to the body's electromagnetic field. And also number 6, how is prayer a voltage alignment tool in the Codex? Come on now, stop Googling and start putting down some answers.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without.
All right, come on. Don't get behind. Listen, we mixing it up. We mixing it up. With this next part, I want you to match which one's supposed to go with which one. See, listen, I told y'all. I told y'all, we taking this to another level with this. Listen, we're not going to play around with this. What we're doing with the Codex, rich abs, poor abs, we're going to another dimension with this information, right? And for me, it's not about lecturing. It's not about lecturing and looking cute and playing games. It's about making sure y'all are getting this information. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we got to run checks and balances. I got to make sure y'all not at the house getting high, watching the video, dozing off, eating cupcakes and ice cream. Those things are cool as long as you're still learning the information. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever helps you to learn, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want this to become a high, right? Because when you watch these videos, you release a lot of dopamine. That's the feeling you get when some information hits you and you resonate with it. You're like, oh, that was crazy right there. That's dopamine release. That's the same as snorting cocaine or smoking weed. It's dopamine is releasing. I don't want this to just be a form of addiction, just be a form of high. I want to make sure you're learning this so you can turn around and each one teach one and try to reach one, right? Each one teach one, try to reach one. This is how we're going to have certifications and everything. We're going to have certifications. I need to make sure people are getting this. Man, come on. That's what I'm talking about. Just did prayer and notice we live. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. So look, match the right answers to the right answers, right? You got to match the right term to the right answer, right? You got to match the right term to the right answer. That, come on, man. Come on, Paul. That. Let's go. Fiend out on the books and the novel. That's what I'm talking about. So now let's get these right. Number 7. Is number 7 A, B, C, or D? Let me see some answers in the chat. Is number 7 A, B, C, or D? Is number 8 A, B, C, or D? Is number 9 A, B, C, or D? Now, the way we set this up is easy because if you get one, that neutralizes that answer for something else, right? So if you're saying number 7 is B, then you know for number 8, you only have 3 choices left. right? And so now if you're saying 8 is C, see, look at 8. Yo, everybody got the same one for number 7, and then number 8 went crazy. Everybody got different answers, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop the answers on the Patreon. That's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna drop the answers on the Patreon. In fact, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start probably just dropping the whole keynote on the Patreon. So for the Patreon supporters, this Codex done open up a whole new universe. So please, I appreciate you guys being patient so long. We're about to start dropping a mother load of information and stuff on you. And as we create these keynotes, I'll just drop them on you. So as we go through it as a family, then at home, look, you got your Codex, and then you'll have your like how they do in the church. You got Bible study, you got Codex study, right? So you'll have the presentations where you can now go through the information with your people. You'll have the question and answer part, and then you'll have a whole program. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna build it out to where we have everything. You know, we'll do the whole entire book, no matter how long it takes us. No matter how long it takes us, we're not gonna do, you know. And listen, I had to do it that way so that we could build what we needed to build, right? But one thing people been complaining about that I really didn't have an answer for was spending more time on each book. God, you're coming out with these books so fast and whoop, whoop, and we'll spend 4, 5, 6 hours on it. And I'm like, yo, we did 6 hour live, like, but people don't really understand the value. In college, you're paying $100, $200, $300 per hour of study. On YouTube, you tuning in, you whatever. You know what I'm saying? You might donate, you might not even hit the like button. You know what I'm saying? So you're like, yo, we need more. I'm like, yo, we had 6 hours, 4 hours. Like, we gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So, but with the Codex, I'm making the commitment that we're gonna go through every prayer, sermon, and dissertation and white paper, like every part of the informational portion of the Codex till we get finished with it. And all of the information will be released to the Patreon members. So that way you can go crazy with it. What kind of answer? What you doing, Don P? What kind of answer is that? Oh, no, I got you. I see what you're doing. You put all your answers on one. I see what you did right there. Okay. I see what you did right there. So we got number 7. Everybody was unified. Number 8, things went crazy. Number 9, things went crazy. And then number 10, interesting. Okay. Now the next one, right? The next one is you doing your thing, right? The next one is you doing your thing, right? Where you draw and label a cell showing the membrane potential, mitochondria, biofield emission, right? The mind of the cell, right? Which you can't do in the chat, obviously, or in the comment section, right? And then do a little essay breaking down in scientific and spiritual terms, right? You are the memory of energy transformed. What does that mean to you? Right? Now, obviously, we want people to participate on the watch back. So we want your answers in the comment section. Come on, people. We need your answers in the comment section. If you did not watch this video live, we need you to watch playback and participate. Now, all of that, hopefully, so that when people hear this, hopefully now, 3 hours later, you get a lot more information out of this when you hear it.
Osborne, bro, listen. The single most important thing about diabetes you gotta remember is, listen, as a matter of fact, when we get in the Bentley, I'll explain it. Thank God Jimmy sent us this Bentley. Listen, wait. Get us to the mansion. Get us to the mansion. My wife. From the crown of thorns to facial chains and diabetes.
Okay, hold up. So that was the wrong video.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without leaving a trace. Voltage across membrane births magnetic field. Movement of charge weaves electromagnetic memory. This is the sacred law. When energy transforms, information emerges. Every mitochondrial pulse, a record. Every ion channel flicker, a signature. Every breath, a waveform written into flesh. Thus, the magnetic field of each cell holds this memory. Not static, not frozen, but living, dynamic, coherent when the temple is tended. And the choir of these fields across trillions of cells constructs the mind. Your thoughts do not arise from neurons alone. They arise from the interaction of these fields. They are the symphony of your energy transformations. They are the song of your Christ wave as it echoes through your temple. The more coherent your cellular fields, the more clear your mind. The more chaotic your cellular fields, the more fogged your thought. Breath matters, for it orders the wave. Thus movement matters, for it aligns the field. Thus light matters, for it feeds the charge. Thus fasting matters, for it renews the scroll. Each push-up is not mere strength, it is a field alignment. Each deep breath is not mere air, it is a magnetic clarification. Each mitochondrial cycle is not mere metabolism, it is memory creation. Energy transformed into information. And so I pray, O Temple of Christ, keep the fields coherent. O breath of spirit, tune the wave. O heart of Messiah, synchronize the pulse. O spine of Jed, conduct the charge. O mind of the temple, remember thy source. You are the child of light in motion. You are the memory of energy transformed. You are the song of fields made flesh. Tend the body that the mind may shine. Tend the mind that the temple may live. And know this, every action is recorded. Every breath is a verse. Every thought a ripple through the cellular choir. We are mind, built from the field, fed by light, transformed by energy. Amen. This is why you have to go to Amazon and get the book, Rich Abs, Poor Abs, now.